seeing that team come together, very, very diverse team, all moving towards a common goal is very satisfying. So get in and experience lots of different things, and then you'll find what you really enjoy. You've got to embed as much as possible that outsourced team into your own team, and all those processes have got to be consistent. I'd probably go as far to say Ukrainian development resources are some of the best in the world. Definitely something I've learned over the 5 years of operating OnePlan is bringing the in-sourced outsourcers closer together.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Devico Breakfast Bar. Here we speak with different people involved in the business landscape, share their expertise and delve into the latest tech trends and explore the ins and outs of IT outsourcing. I'm Oleg Sadikov and today I'm excited to have Paul Foster, the founder of OnePlan, the global event management platform. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new episodes. Hi Paul, and thanks for joining me today.
Well, thanks very much for the invitation. Looking forward to the conversation.
Let's start our podcast with a little blitz. I start a sentence and you continue.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship gave me
opportunities.
Entrepreneurship deprived me
time with family.
My main superpower is
resilience.
My main weakness is
saying yes.
When I'm afraid, I
turn to my friends.
Sounds great.
Okay.
The last one I've never heard from my guests. Okay, I will start asking questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
What first sparked your interest in crowd management and event planning, and how did your career unfold from there?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. So if we go back to kind of 2006, 2007, I was the team manager of the Great Britain wheelchair basketball team in Beijing in 2008. And at the time, it had recently been announced that London had won the rights to host the 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. We won the bronze medal in Beijing, and when I came back, I got asked to join UK government's Olympic Paralympic department in DCMS in Whitehall. And there I was advising ministers on, planning for the games, Paralympic Games and such like. And I was handed a very interesting project with a couple of colleagues, was to explore how to manage the movement of people outside of the venues. Who's going to take responsibility? What's needed to kind of do all that? London is a very busy city, and the business as usual, people going to work and people living in London, how do we take account of that? We had a project there. We worked with various stakeholders and experts, and then we asked government for money to kind of fund that operation, which was very significant, right across London and all the other host cities across the UK. Some of that money was awarded to Transport for London. Some of it went to London Organising Committee. And I kind of followed it over, and I was asked to oversee the people movement for the external areas of the Olympic Park. In a pretty big operation, there was over 250,000 people coming in and out of the Olympic Park each day. Huge operation right next to Europe's largest shopping centre at the time, Westfield. I was kind of overseeing that, brought in various experts from all over the world. I learned very quickly about some of the principles of crowd management, but also a lot of it was about stakeholder management. I had to work very closely with security services, with Met Police, Transport for London, the venues themselves. So coordinating, bringing that team together. And, fortunately for us, it was a hugely successful operation. It was seen as a real big plus point for the games. And it kind of went on from there. I then set my own consultancy business up in specialising in movement management. That business was acquired about 6 years ago now. So then I moved into kind of setting up OnePlan.
Okay. What are the unique challenges of managing crowd dynamics and security in large-scale events? And how do you approach these challenges?
Yeah, it's hugely challenging. Probably seen over the last couple of years. Since COVID moved away, there's been crowd challenges, most recently in the UEFA European Championships in Germany. There was challenges at Champions League final in Stade de France. We had all the issues at Wembley Stadium when we hosted the Euros, not to mention various other things around the world. So if you think about the Astro World incident in Texas, there's been many other stadiums have challenges. And a lot of it's about poor planning and not anticipating how people will react and respond in certain situations. So it's a hugely dynamic situation managing clouds, but there tends to be a real lack of kind of planning and foresight to predict when people are going to arrive, how much space have you got to accommodate people, and ensuring people, ultimately have a good experience as well. It's not just about safety and security, it's also people having a positive experience. They're in a good mood, they're more likely to be compliant. And developing science, crowd science, there's still kind of a long way to kind of go with it. But yeah, hugely challenging on an Olympic context because you're working with multiple venues operating concurrently in one city. So Paris, which will have the Olympic Games in a couple of weeks' time, there are essentially 20 plus world championships going on at one time in a really busy European city. So you've got to think about all the various kind of dynamics of that. There's lots of family groups. There's still people moving and tourism around the city as well, people that live there. So yeah, huge array kind of challenges, but so much of it, it's about proper planning and trying to kind of anticipate where the busy spots are going to be and what you can do to kind of spread out some of the peaks, spreading out how long the transport is available, kind of elongating some of those kind of challenging time periods.
What aspect of your work brings you the most satisfaction?
Yeah, in my current role, so as CEO and founder of OnePlan, I think it's seeing the team grow and evolve and it's how much passion that they have to deliver something that's brilliant. They all get the potential that our kind of platform has, and they're all helping our clients achieve their goals as well. So I think bringing together a very global team that we have, I think we're across 14 different countries, bringing that together in a cohesive way is really kind of satisfying. Yes, we have all the big wins of working with the Olympics and other kind of great clients. Seeing that team kind of come together, very diverse team, all moving towards a common goal is very satisfying.
The global events industry is expected to reach 840 billion by 2027. With the rise of global events, cultural sensitivity is crucial. How has your international experience influenced your approach to event planning and crowd management in different cultural contexts?
Yeah, so I'd be very fortunate to work in multiple different continents on crowd management, so Australia, South Korea for the Winter Games in 2018, the Summer Games in Rio in 2016, worked in the States and Europe. And I think you can have those principles of how things work and broad principles and the theory, but you've really got to take consideration of the kind of cultural aspect and local kind of nuances. A classic way of describing this, bottom of a ski lift in France or Switzerland. Now you can spot the British people straight away because they're all queuing up very neatly behind one another, waiting to politely get onto the ski lift. But all the French and Swiss, they're all just bunched around trying to get on as quickly as they can. And it's a real bottom of a ski lift in France and Switzerland during holiday times. It's a really interesting crowd science kind of study because it's very obvious you can spot the different kind of cultures. But that's one, kind of amusing anecdote, but you multiply that up across kind of other areas. There's different ways and behaviors that people move, and also the physical aspects of a human being as well. So when we worked in Korea, the Korean population is generally quite a bit shorter than the average population of a human on the globe. So they have a shorter stride. So it takes slightly longer to get longer distances. And it's the Winter Games. They all had big coats on, big jackets. So search and screening takes longer because they've got to get things out of their pockets and such like. So there are all these little things. You might think, that's not too much of a difference. Maybe it's just a couple of seconds here, a couple of seconds there. Yes, but you're multiplying that up by 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people. It then makes kind of a big difference. So all these slight different cultural aspects and the physical makeup and kinetics of biology of a human being, it's different in different places. So that all needs to be taken into consideration. And it's a fascinating science to look at. Whenever I go and work on a games, I'll go into the busiest train stations or metro stations and just watch and observe to see how people move around, see how they interact with each other. And you get so much from that. So it's taking the theory and the experience in the past, but then really augmenting that with the local context and the local understanding and culture.
That's definitely interesting. How does technology, including digital twin simulations, enhance safety and operational efficiency in event management?
Yeah, so it's really difficult to visualize what the Olympic Games in Paris is going to look like in 20-something days' time. Why? Because it's never happened before in Paris at that moment in time with all the other things that are going on kind of in the world. So digital twin enables you to visualize and appreciate the spaces. And we do little things like we can simulate the sun's position accurately by the minute on that particular date, on that particular location. So at certain times of day, is the sun going to be particularly low in the sky? Is it going to kind of cause certain issues for athletes, for security and such like? So it enables us to kind of simulate as closely as possible games times operations. And think about that, you can use it for risk management, so where can people move or not move, but also you can simulate various different scenarios as well. So what happens if something happens in this location? What would our kind of mitigations be? What are the alternative routes? And there's security teams and there's operational teams all over the world kind of engaged kind of on this, and enable them to visit the venues remotely is a huge benefit. Now, if you move on to LA and Brisbane, it's not as if people can get a train to LA or Brisbane like they can in Europe. You can get multiple countries can come to Paris very, very quickly. But for LA and Brisbane, it's much, much bigger distances. So also the huge benefit of cost saving and carbon footprint saving as well, and reducing down those site visits.
What emerging technologies do you see transforming the future of event planning and management?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot more to go in terms of like ticketing systems and also in terms of security. So making the security much more of a positive experience, a more seamless experience. And what we're seeing is a lot more cashless services in place. So probably the best venue coming up shortly to keep an eye on is the Intuit Dome in LA, the new home of the LA Clippers. Now, the owner of the LA Clippers is Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft. And his venue he's building is the most advanced venue in the world. Why do we know that? Well, we've digitally twinned it. So I've actually kind of been around it, like virtually experienced it. But their whole approach is no fan should break stride. So they don't want anyone to break stride as they're going into the venue, getting into the venue. It's little things like everybody arrives and they go down steps towards their seat. No one's coming back up again. And when you leave, your back's to the arena. So you're actually coming into the arena. There's sensors in the seats that can tell how long have you been in your seat. None of the hospitality suites, you cannot see the field of play. Steve wants everybody in their seats, engaging in the sport, watching the sport. When you go to the concessions, you can just pick up food and on off you go, a bit like the kind of, the Amazon systems in some of the supermarkets they've got now, where you can just kind of like grab and go and don't even have to kind of take your
It was not successful, by the way.
Well, I think Steve's probably got a bit of a different approach to it, so we'll see how it fares. But there's a couple of stadiums and arenas in the US that have kind of taken involved. And I think why it's been successful in stadiums arena, it's a much more controlled environment. You know who's in that space. This isn't people just kind of coming off the street, coming in, and there's all this risk. You're in a closed arena, and then you've got specific spots. So you know who's there, you know it's a ticket holder. I agree with you in kind of like a supermarket environment, it's really challenging. But actually in a contained environment, that's probably where it's at its strength. And also remember, you need to serve a high volume of people in a very short space of time because everyone's going in the breaks just before the game. During the game, it's empty. There's no one there because they're all watching the sport. And particularly where you've got that really big peak demand and you want to get people through quickly, it's ideal. And that then feeds into kind of the crowd management. So I think some of those aspects all really kind of come forward, and it gives an opportunity to advance the fan experience. And ultimately that will help safety and security. But yeah, look out for the Intuit Dome, which I think goes live in around kind of October time.
What advice would you give to those aspiring to enter the field of event management, particularly in large-scale events?
Yeah, so the first thing is kind of get involved and do anything. Don't have a specific, right, I want to work in accreditation, in ticketing, in security. It might be a volunteering is the first way into it. It's a very unusual business because everybody is essentially like freelance and short-term roles. You go from one event to another. So it's not as if you're in a job, working for Microsoft for 20 years and then retiring at the end of it. So get the experience and get lots of different experiences in different areas, and then build your network, get to know people. Where are they moving on to next? Get to know the suppliers, get to know the organising committees that are putting on these events. So get in and experience lots of different things. And then you'll find what you really enjoy. Is it catering area that you really enjoy? Is it the ticketing area? Is it the VIP bit that you really enjoy? You'll understand what you enjoy and specialise a little bit later on. But yeah, get in there, get the experience. Any level is always helpful. And there's lots of opportunities to volunteer for events all over the world.
IT outsourcing is a major trend in the tech industry. What are your thoughts on the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing these tech functions?
Yeah. So we've used outsourced tech solutions ourselves, and we also have in-house team as well. I think some of the big advantages is speed and expertise. So if you have a particular niche thing you want to get done in a short space of time and you need real expertise to do that, absolute ideal with that. I think the disadvantage is your internal team, when it's handed over to them being able to take that on. But I think that can be mitigated. So I think it's really, really important when anything's developed an outsourced provider, you're thinking, okay, as part of that, I want good documentation. I want training for my internal team. I want them to be able to take this on longer term. So that's probably one of the things I've learned is don't feel like, okay, right, you go off and do that, get that done. And when it's done, come back to me and it's finished. No. You've got to embed as much as possible that outsourced team into your own team, and all those processes have got to be consistent. So definitely something I've learned over the 5 years of operating OnePlan is bringing the in-sourced outsourcers closer together.
How do you see the role of IT outsourcing evolving in the context of your industry's future needs and demands?
Yeah, to help to scale, I think. So there are specific elements we outsource. So when we have like detailed 3D model building, it's difficult just to predict the demands of that. So when are we going to have high volumes of 3D model builds requirements? And holding that resource internally, it's expensive to employ those people full time. And there could be long periods where they're not really doing anything and then you're overloaded. So there, it really helps us to scale up really, really quickly. And what we've done is actually have multiple outsource providers we use. We know what they're very good at. If I take a 3D model build, for example, we've got particular outsourcers that are very good at landscapes and very large areas. We've got others that are very good at buildings, and then others that are very good at the detail internally, the texturing and such like. So I have specialists in each areas, and we tap into those as needed. I think the important thing for us is a constant two-way dialogue. So don't just pick up the phone and say, hey, I need you tomorrow to do this. They've got to plan their time as well. They've got to kind of factor in where their resources is. So what we try and do is say, right, these are the conversations we're having. This is when we think things are going to be coming up, and helping them to plan with us rather than it being a very reactive process. We've learned from our mistakes. We now make it much more proactive.
Are there any specific regions or countries that you find particularly promising for tech talent?
Yes, Eastern Europe is particularly strong. Number of our developers, Ukrainian, fantastic. I'd probably go as far to say Ukrainian development resources are some of the best in the world. It fits very well with our culture as well. Very hardworking, very, very diligent. And actually some of our Ukrainian team moved over to the UK. We've been able to help and facilitate that. But there are pockets in other areas. I think the other advantage for us is that obviously Ukraine's on and Eastern Europe's on a good time zone for a lot of our team based in the UK. We are looking potentially to have some development resources in the United States, just so we get a 24-hour coverage. So we are looking at different areas. But yeah, for us, we've always favoured Eastern Europe, where some of our team are Romanian, some from Montenegro and different places. But yeah, we've definitely had a core from the Ukraine, which has been really successful for us. They're a great team and they're very integrated with us as well. So that's where we've had success.
As we wrap up our conversation, what advice would you give to business leaders considering outsourcing as a part of their growth strategy?
Yeah, so when interviewing and talking to them, don't just talk about what's your technical expertise. Try and understand the culture of that outsourced business. So does their culture fit with your culture? What are the things that they want to achieve? What are the things that they're looking to grow and develop? And if you can get kind of some of those objectives aligned, you've got a much, much better chance of a successful relationship. And we have outsourcing in QA. We have outsourcing in 3D model build. We have it in development as well. But we really, really feel the outsourced kind of providers we've selected definitely fit with our culture really, really well. And they have a day-to-day relationship with our core team. So I think it's always difficult to interview people for attitude and culture, but it's always something that comes on gut instinct, I think. How did you get along with the conversation? Was there connection there? But for me, it's as much that as it is about the technical capabilities as well.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts. It was an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, no problem. Thanks very much again for the invite. And yeah, I hope your listeners found it interesting.
Definitely. If you enjoy our discussion and want to stay updated on the future episodes, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you will not miss out on the latest insights and conversations from the Devico Breakfast Bar. See you in the next episode.